Everybody. Welcome to the Prep Life Podcast. This is your founder and CEO of Glam Girl Bikini, Amy Anger, and today I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Leemarie Hosstetter. Hey, Lee.
Hello.
Hey. So we are recording on Thursday. We, you know, are jumping on the train with all of the new news in the NPC. So we wanted to be one of the first ones to kind of cover the new division, the NPC fitness model division.
Mhm.
So I know we both have varying opinions about this, so I think it's
Yes.
good. I just put a poll on my Instagram story, and the majority of people are excited about it, but there's
Mhm.
some people that are not. So I think it'll be good for us to kind of both give our opinions and then also just exactly what the NPC is looking for in this division from the information that is provided on the NPC News Online website. And of course, so many of you probably watched the viral video of Tyler Mannion explaining it. And so for me, like my personal opinion, I'm super stoked about this division because ever since I started competing, this is the OG of bikini. Like this is where it was supposed to start. It was supposed to be like a person that was just, like in shape, that, somebody off the beach. It was supposed to be off the rack suits. And it was supposed to be you were fit and in shape, but not nearly the muscularity. And I know we've talked about this on a previous podcast. I think it was right after the Ben Weider, we were talking about how the stallion pose is coming back
Mhm.
and how that was like my favorite, and just how, at my last competition at the Caribbean Grand Prix, how I just cannot keep up with the muscle that is required at this time. Whereas, my body more fit the OG bikini. So I'm very excited personally about it. I've had a lot of old clients reach out that have kind of, I guess you would say, like not really given up on the sport, but have either retired or just kind of felt like they couldn't keep up with the standard that bikini is now, at with like IFBB pros and things like that.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of, former clients reach out over the last couple of days, and just a lot of people that are really excited about it because they see this, being a more mainstream look, which is what a bikini was originally supposed to be. And so is men's physique. And we've kind of seen how those have evolved, how much muscle there is. So I think that, in my opinion, I think that this is kind of exciting for me. Um, and what are your thoughts?
I think we should break down what it actually is and
Okay.
like the actual requirements so
Yeah.
that everyone knows kind of what we're talking about. Just in case somebody hasn't like looked it all up or seen, I know we have some slides from Becky Clausen, who is a head judge.
Yeah.
I was gonna look and see if Sandy, who is the chairwoman of the NPC for women, had said anything, but then I didn't have time. Did you see if she had said anything, or is it mostly
She
Becky?
doesn't post on Instagram on her personal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually personally texted her and asked if she would want to come on. And I messaged Becky. I even sent like an email to Tyler. I'm sure they're all three inundated with, questions and things like that. So we'll see if I hear back from them because there are a couple of question marks, and I'm sure a lot of people have question marks too, just with some of this. But I think you're right. Like going over what they're looking for exactly on directly from like the NPC website is super valid. So do you want to start with the 4 points of how the new fit model physiques will be judged, like the criteria?
4 points. I
I
had
can
like
do that.
10 points.
Okay. So I'll start. The four that the criteria is based on is
Oh,
conditioning,
yes. Yeah.
symmetry, and balance, and then presentation or posing, and then muscularity. So we'll kind of further break those down on what they should actually display when it comes to the conditioning and the muscularity. So do you want to
Right.
start with that
And
one?
well, let me just point out too. Those are the same, it's the same judging points for bikini, correct? Although the actual what they're looking for, the standard is going to be different. But those are the same points as bikini,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like for I mean, I guess also you could say the same for wellness. Although the
Except they don't have
standard,
symmetry and balance.
oh, that's true. That's true. So,
Yeah.
so this is the only category that it's almost sort of a subcategory, or they're twin categories. They're judged on the same things, but at different standards.
Yeah, because you could argue that all four of these standards are how they judge figure, it's how they judge women's physique, how they judge women's bodybuilding, because all of them are judged on a certain conditioning, a certain symmetry, a certain presentation, a certain muscularity, but based on the criteria, which is what I was just going to deep dive into, is like what they should display for this division
So
specifically.
it's not necessarily different or new. It's the same criteria as the other divisions. It's just what the standards they're looking for within that criteria is going to be different for this new division.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of the bullets here, there's seven in terms of what they should display. So,
Yes.
foundation of muscle gives shape of the female body. However, the amount of muscle should be less than a bikini. So it's like the starting point of the muscularity on the spectrum. And then the amount of muscle legs, glutes, arms, delts should be less than currently seen in the NPC and the IFBB and bikini. Full glutes should be visible, no tie-ins. However, the glutes should be firm while they're doing the model walk to the back curtain. There shouldn't be any kind of like jiggle or anything like that. And the small amount of roundness in the delts, but no cap delts. A core should have good shape, but not too much conditioning or too lean. And then overall conditioning is less than the NPC and the IFBB bikini division. So this would be more like your mainstream fitness magazine cover model, and factors will still be just similar to bikini, where you want hair, tan, makeup. So the suit should work together with that and enhance their overall presentation. Um, so I know there's definite nuances for the suit, for the posing. So let's go into, do you want to go into the posing first or?
Let's see. I think I'm out of, yes. Okay. So the presentation, competitors will walk on stage alone, perform their front and back poses, which is the same as bikini. And the whole presentation will consist of walking to the center of the stage, hitting a front stance, doing a full turn in the back stance, turning to the front again to face the judges, and then proceeding to the side of the stage. The
Mhm.
one thing that I was a little gray on was that they specifically said do not stop to hit a transition pose. And if you
That's
look at bikini, the criteria for bikini, we're not judged on transition poses necessarily. That's not a requirement. It's front and back pose. But what makes it, they want to see fluidity, and they don't want to see jerkiness, or just they're watching you as you move between poses. And I know one of the biggest things that I've personally heard from judges is they're watching your core and your glutes as you transition. So even though they're saying don't stop, like don't stop in a maybe like a model pose or a peek over the shoulder, like that's going to be judged, you still, I would guess, want to make your transitions as fluid and hold in your core, hold in your poses while you're transitioning. I don't know that this is any different than bikini.
So you're right. In men's physique and in bikini, they're both always have been historically, there's no quarter turns. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
front and a back pose that you're judged on. So, even in bikini, like the quicker you get there to your back pose, when they say turn to the back curtain, if you take a long time in those transitions, it's gonna be bad for you, especially like in a comparison round, because they're gonna judge as soon as those girls get to the back. So I think just over time, so it's just evolved, and I've given things names in my
Yeah.
posing handbook, but like those aren't real poses. Those aren't
Right.
things that you're judged on. So like peek over the shoulder, model pose,
Mm-hmm.
the Angelica, those are all things that like have been named throughout time, and people have like put their signatures on them, I guess, like because some people like the Angelica, obviously she was the first person to do that transition. So I think from what Becky states, is she really highlighted there's no transitions. So I think that they're going to be kind of hard and fast on like really just going from front to back in this new division. and separating it from bikini in that way. Just because I think that they're trying to get back to that OG. So in the beginning, there just wasn't so much of like a development of these transition poses, if that makes sense. So that's how I interpret it.
Yeah.
And then there will still be a walk to the back curtain, but Tyler mentioned that it's mostly just going to be in the overall, like at finals, like how it would normally be. Um, and, it's not going to be as prevalent in terms of, it'll just be like basically for the overall, is what I interpreted on that one.
Which and all of these things, I feel like they state it, but then you see it in practice. So this is why I'm curious
Uh-huh.
to see how this is actually going to develop, because
Yeah.
all of these things, all of these points that they're making, they tell us at every show. These are all bikini points that
Yeah.
they want us to do, especially since we're not, like, I only compete at the national level. I'm not a pro. We are not supposed to take a lot of time in those transitions. They want to see us hit those. They want to keep things moving. They don't want to do a walk to the back curtain unless it's for the overall. All of these things are the same. I feel like things have gotten a little out of hand and it's good because people at the national level, us girls competing at the national level, we are reaching for that pro status. So it's very easy for us to try and mimic the pros because we're reaching for that. But I feel like the NPC has been trying to rein it in, and they've been
Uh-huh.
trying. The promoters and the judges are very specific in your briefings, in your athlete meetings, front, back, off the stage. Hit them good. We get what we want. Like, don't take up tons of time. You have a time limit, all of those things. And I feel like they're re-emphasizing it at the beginning, like, hey, but if you look at it on paper, nothing in here is hitting me as different than bikini. I think they're just trying to like rein it in and like
Yeah.
actually hold people to that limit, but really
Yeah.
nothing in here is different than bikini
Yeah, because
so
it's
far.
still 10 seconds. But the one thing is like that I'm confused a little bit on is are they going to be doing an individual routine? Do you do you see that
Yeah.
that's
Well,
part of
it
it?
says
Okay.
competitors will walk on stage alone because there's a
Okay,
different
so
one
there
where
is.
that talks about comparison. So
Okay.
this is your routine, is what they're
Yeah.
describing,
Yeah.
basically.
And you have to take steps to get from front to back. You can't just magically
Right.
jump there in heels.
So I think I really think if you're looking to do this as a new category and thinking it's going to be completely different from bikini, it's not. Like, it's the same thing. The only things that are different are the criteria, the standards they're looking for as far as your physique. The posing, I mean, the front pose
The
is going to be a
suit.
different pose, but like, yeah, the suit and those things are different, but it's basically the same. It should be the same like setup and format on getting on and off stage as bikini.
Yeah, so I mean, Stallion was the original OG front pose and sitting in your back hip, and then it evolved into what now looks like a quarter turn for a wellness competitor. So it's like a side pose, even though it's a front pose, like in bikini, right? So there was around, I would say the last time I did the Stallion was like in 2018. And so that was when things were like changing and shifting. I think the biggest shift was probably in 2017 because I kept mine in a little bit longer than most people did just because I liked the way that it made my waist look. But
Mm-hmm.
pretty much everyone had transitioned because they started doing that at the Olympia, like I think in 2016. So, Tyler references Ashley Kay, who, by the way, I was fangirling yesterday. She was at Beastified Gym
Crazy.
doing a photo shoot, which was so crazy because that announcement just had come out. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Ashley Kay is in here signing the wall at Beast Divide. But anyway, so in her 2015 photo, I think if you look at Courtney King the year before that in
Yeah.
2014, you can see it even more. And she even did like the old school like back pose. So they're saying that the back pose is exactly the same as the current bikini. But if you look at her Olympia, and maybe we can share it on our reel or something. But if you look at her Olympia back pose photos, she has that crossover. Like used to be like a lot of my friends used to do that one. She has her feet together where they're not like super wide. I don't know if you see that back
Oh,
pose.
yep, yep.
But I mean, that was the year before Ashley in 2015, which
Mhm.
is the standard that we're supposed to follow here as this new fitness model. So just super interesting. But I do think before we digress, let's also go over the distinct difference between the suits because I think that that's super significant. I've
Mhm.
seen some suit designers get on, and there was some confusion. I've already seen they had some question marks, but it's very clearly defined here in the NPC. So I wanted to kind of go over this. It should be one plain color, no bling allowed on the suits, no stones, no crystals, sequins, or beads, and no connectors. I know that was a question mark for a lot of people. You can't have ties or connectors. So it would look like the Angel Competition bikinis posing suit, essentially,
Mhm.
because those are slide fabric, but there's no bling on them. They're just basically, instead of having a tie, I really like those because, first of all, when you are in your improvement season or you're leaned out, you can just slide that slider on the
Oh, it makes them adjustable so you don't have to
yeah,
get
it's an adjustable
size.
one. Yeah,
That's
which I really like. So hopefully they'll do that. But then it's a moderate coverage. But I found it interesting because I heard a couple of the suit designers saying that it would be more like their Brazilian cut, but it says specifically on the NPC website that the back styles like pro cut, micro cut, Brazilian cut, and small cuts will be strictly prohibited. So I know like in let's say WBFF or other organizations, they usually use the Brazilian cut because it's more moderate and it has a lot more coverage. I just think it's super interesting too that they're not going to have a scrunch back because even the OG had scrunch back.
I'm looking at
Um,
these right now and it's not
yeah,
they're requiring now.
yeah, and so that's going to be kind of crazy that you don't have the scrunch butt, and then they're also discouraging that you don't have that V, so that wellness cut in the front.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's pretty popular in the front of the suit. There should be no V there, and then obviously no thongs permitted. So I'm definitely dating myself, but my first competition was in 2012, and so I remember when bikini first came out, and Indiana's a very conservative,
Mhm.
state in general, and so our chairman was very against bikini, and he was very stringent on, making it so that it's not sexualized, which I 100% appreciate. But I remember him going up on stage and like hooking a girl, like pulling her off the stage um,
Oh my
because she
gosh.
had the wrong bottoms. And today, like they probably were like bigger than that, but he just was like, get off the stage. And he would do suit inspections on all of us and make sure that like, which again, I appreciate. And I don't want like,
I don't appreciate him going on stage and pulling it.
no, no,
That's
that was like a little
oh,
much. But
that's
I do
real.
appreciate the fact that he was like not wanting it to be sexualized, right? So, and I think that if you weren't in the sport back then, everybody thought that it was going to be like this cat call, like they they thought like, oh, like his figure was the last women's sport to be out, and like everybody just thought it would be like highly sexualized, and it's hard to explain it now because like it's that like undertone isn't really there anymore, but like everybody was so nervous about that coming about that it wouldn't be taken seriously. And now you look at the sport here and it's like that's like the furthest thing from it. And it's
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
so in that regard, I don't know, I kind of got on a tangent, but I mean, I remember my first couple of suits, I would do like the hologram shatter just to make it look like it had bling
Mhm.
because I was used to my figure suit. My first year, it had like all these Swarovski crystals and things. And I mean, I even had like my first bikini suit was like a raspberry color, and it to make it interesting or to make it different, like the trim had zebra stripes. It
Do I
was
have
like
a picture of that?
2012.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I want to see that so bad.
I have
Oh
it like
yeah.
here.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
So that was my very first bikini. Like you could see I'm wearing it like horizontally.
Yep.
Um,
I was gonna say, I wonder if you'll see more of the horizontal straps.
I don't know,
That's
but
old school.
if you look at the coverage of this one from I think this one was from 2013. Um, I mean that's more coverage than a Brazilian, but it does have a
Yeah.
scrunch butt. It looks like it has crystals. this green one that I'm putting up, but it's just a hologram fabric. So I wonder how much people are going to get around like the,
Right.
because it's going to be very boring if it's just one plain color, which technically this fabric, it like that's how it evolved off the rack. And then it started going into sequins and then it started going into slight beading. And then now it's like fully crystallized suits. So I think they're trying to like rein it back to what it was before and things like that. But I do think it's weird that they're not doing the scrunch butt.
Well, and also if you look at Ashley K's picture, which they have publicly posted as the standard,
Yep.
her suit has connectors.
And it has bling.
Got sequins, it's got bling.
Hmm.
To me, I think you're right. I think the underlying goal of this is to, I mean, basically make it a little bit more modest and less sexualized. Maybe that's the only thing I can think of why they would be doing this, that like changing the suits like this. However, to me, it's almost giving the opposite because of what you said. Like we've been able to establish the sport of bikini in the category of bikini as a sport. And the bikini is like our uniform. That's what we
Yeah,
wear play. And there's nothing sexualized about it. And the way that we
absolutely.
play our muscle, we're athletes. Everyone backstage treats us with respect as athletes. I've
Exactly.
never been catcalled at a show. And that
Right.
you if anyone thinks that about bodybuilding, it's because they've never been to a show. So they
Yeah.
don't understand that. And so I think by trying to rein it back, it almost is giving the impression that bikini competitors now are more sensual when that's
Yeah.
really
It's
not it.
not at all.
And it's almost like the NPC is admitting something. I don't even think they mean to, but the impression it gives is that they're saying we want you to be better than what bikini is right now, or we want you to be more conservative because bikini is too. And that's never been their platform at all for bikini.
So I wasn't trying to insinuate that at all. Like
Oh, that
I
I've
just like
that
I'm just
before.
like for people that for me, I've been around the sport since 2011. So I've just seen how it was like first, like a lot of the pushback, it was
Yeah,
ridiculous. And then, and I had like a lot of competitors that are females, like where their husbands were like uncomfortable. And then as soon as they went to a show, they were like, wow, that's my wife up there.
right?
She's amazing. And they're totally like, okay, this is not at all what I was thinking that it would be, which I don't want to like allude at all that the NPC is like trying to do that. I think the main reason is, there were about um, the previous year in 2023 at national shows, there were about like, I think 1,300 competitors at national shows, and this year there are about 700.
Mhm.
So I just think, like the look is getting out of reach. It's not mainstream. So they're trying to reach more mainstream competitors because, like we talked about with drug tested, it's great that they've been pushing that. And I think that's why they were pushing it because they wanted to rein it in. But when you look at the top of the sport, you there's a ceiling for drug tested athletes because they have one qualifying Olympic event. And then once they go into the Olympia, there's not a drug tested Olympia, which is what I was telling you. Like, that's why, like, if you're going to push drug tested, then you have to make sure it goes all the way up.
Yep.
You can't stop it and put a glass ceiling over those athletes because once they go pro as a natural drug tested athlete, they only have one opportunity to qualify for the Olympia. When they do qualify for the Olympia, it's not apples to apples.
Nope.
And so I think that's why that's the main reason why I think that they're trying to do this is
Yeah.
just that it's more mainstream, that we get more people involved in the sport. They've seen the numbers historically have gone down, 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 and the amount of drugs required, the price tag on that, like the look, the voices changing, the aged faces with the pocket, like the Joker face. I mean, I've been hearing about people that are bikini, that are doing Winstraw, which Winstraw back in the day, that was like what bodybuilders,
Powerlifting. Yeah.
women bodybuilders and women's physique. It was like you would never have to do that for bikini. And there becomes like this line where it's just like it's growing too far out of control. So I believe that that's why they're doing it. couple questions that I have is, pros are allowed to cross over. Once you're a pro,
Oh,
you're allowed to cross over in anything. So you could become a pro bikini competitor and you could compete in women's bodybuilding. I mean, that's why I always told Karina. She always wanted to do bikini, but I'm like, you're gonna get your pro card in fitness. I was like, then once you're a pro, you can cross over into whatever you want. You can, if you're in the IFBB, you can be any category that you want. Now, not to say that you're gonna like look a little out of place if you're a bikini competitor trying to like be Miss Olympia bodybuilder. But there's no like
wow.
like if you get a pro card and you know like Kim Seeley, her last couple of shows as a pro, she competed as a figure pro. She won her pro card as a fitness pro, which those are more similar.
Yeah.
But like Brooke, who got third at the Olympia in women's physique, she got
Mhm.
her pro card in bikini.
Wow.
And why am I blanking on her last name? Brooke, the really cute
Yeah,
blonde
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
hair. You know what I'm talking about.
But
She's
I
an
didn't I
expediter.
don't know her last name either.
But
I
anyway, so that's a question mark that I have because all of us, like
yeah.
myself, that don't have like that glute ham tie and that taper, you like it's so hard to get that you just have like a round glute, but you'd have to get to like crazy levels of lean to even see your tie-in. Like those kind of people, I think that this category is great for them because you can look fit, you can have like a decent amount of muscle and like not so crazy where you have to like go on all this stuff. And I don't know. I digress, but so it'll just be interesting because all the national shows will have this category in 2025, and then it'll start in the pro division in 2026. So that means that for these athletes, they don't have that glass ceiling. So they're going to be able to go pro, win a pro show, go to the Olympia, compete against other fitness model competitors. So there's no limit to them. Whereas I think in the drug test that it kind of does that cone effect. You know what I mean?
So I definitely think you hit the nail on the head when you said about the attendance and the participation getting cut in half. I think the NPC is probably panicking. I mean, and the NPC just like what I love to do when people are confused about bodybuilding or asking me questions, I love to compare it to the NFL. And like because it's such a niche sport, but when you compare it to something like the NFL, everybody knows the NFL and they know the sport. And so to compare it, like the NFL is a business. NPC is a business.
Mhm.
I mean, it costs so much money to do the Olympia, to do all the things. Like they need to make money. So obviously they were like, we need to change something. I loved the way they were going with the drug tested shows. I feel like that is the perfect way to rein it in. I think they should have had at least a drug tested category or a drug tested Olympia, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, that that gives the impression of it levels the playing field, but it also gives you like people that have insane genetics excel in sports. Is it fair? No, but that's the purpose of the competition. There are just people that have insane genetics and they're always going to win the Olympics or they're always going to be the star quarterback or they're always going to win Miss Olympia, whether they do drugs or not. So if they're naturally tested, you kind of get to see those people that have those insane genetics. um, I feel like with this new category, every new category that they've added, I feel like has been different in one aspect. Like when they added bikini, it was an entirely different suit, shape, posing routine, criteria. When they added wellness, it was different. It catered to a different shape, a different body type, even though there were similarities. This category that or this new division, I feel like is basically bikini with less muscle and higher body fat percentage. So like an easier attainable look. To me, it takes away some of the competitive edge. To me, it makes me think a little bit like, and I'm not going to say the names, but the natural divisions that we all know, and we kind of look at their categories and we think, I mean, you could compete in your first show and go pro, and then you could get to the NPC and you wouldn't even get first call outs. You know what I mean? Like it's just a
Yeah.
low standard. So I can see why they're doing it. and I know that it appears like a very smart business move. To me, I want to see how it develops, but my first impression is I'm gonna look at those bikini competitors or the fitness model competitors that win a pro show and kind of think, but would you have really been able to do it if you're in bikini? Probably not. So do you really want to lower the standard to get the pro card? At the same time, if you did drug tested shows, that's a really good way of leveling out the playing field without lowering the standards. I mean, you have people like Lana, what is her last name? Lana
Dunbar.
Dunbar, that
Hmm.
gets the Olympia and looks incredible. And you know she has to work her butt off. But that's what it takes to be a professional in any, sport is making sacrifices and getting to those lean levels. I mean, we've never said that this sport is necessarily a healthy sport. We try to stay as healthy as we can within this sport. And I know like you push it to extremes, and I really respect them trying to rein it in and keep athletes safe, especially with the drugs and stuff. But personally, I feel like pushing the route of more drug tested without adding in a new category made more sense to me. And I think I'm going to have a hard time taking this category seriously because it basically, to me, seems like the same criteria as bikini, just not as high standards. Like they lowered the standards a little bit. And I think
So the
as
NPC though is the Cadillac standard. So they're not gonna make it where it's gonna be just like you were saying, like where it's just like one of those sanctions that or like governing bodies
is,
that we won't mention names, we won't throw things under the
no, we
bus.
won't. No, we
But
won't.
like, if you
But
think about a
no,
lot of the pros and people that have retired because they haven't been able to grow into the bikini, it's not saying that we're taking away drug tests. It's not saying we're taking away bikini. Like Ashley Kay came on the other day and she was like, I'm not just because my picture's on here. Like she was at Angel
right,
competition bikinis and
right.
she was like, just because my picture's on there, she's like, I'm not doing fit model. I'm sticking with bikini. And I know a lot of my competitors are like, I hope I don't get the feedback that I should go to the fit model division. Like,
Because
I
it
want to
seems like
stay
a
in bikini.
cool thing.
But I have people that have left the sport because they were discouraged. They work just as hard as those ones that fit that criteria. They worked just as hard, had a beautiful physique. It was just a little bit less muscle. And so I do think that it's great that they also will get an opportunity to compete. It's definitely a business, like you said. I mean, when Tyler talked about, what did he say specifically? He said something about we want to attract more mainstream sponsors and bring more mainstream um, people to the industry. Like I remember, and again, this is like old school, but men's physique got so much crap. So much crap. Like, oh, board shorts, you're skipping leg day. Like, it got made fun of hardcore. It looks so much different now. Like those guys are huge. Like they are, it evolved into this like tiny waist, like huge delts, huge pecs. Like those are phenomenal, like high level athletes. But it kind of got like made fun of in the beginning, like, oh, we're just like letting anybody off the street like do this category. And now you look at men's physique and you don't think of it that way. But when it first came out, like old school bodybuilders, they were like making fun of it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So I
I
think like with the NPC, it's the gold standard. They're gonna make it like it's gonna be tough. It's just like wellness. Like it took a while for like people really looked like bikini competitors for a while, where you were like, they don't really look wellness. Now, like a couple years into it, they look like that standard. And you would like definitely not like say anything like, oh, it's just an out of shape like bikini competitor that didn't like lean out their legs. But I think with anything like there's going to be a little bit of like adjustment, and it's probably going to be like a couple of years where, you know, there's a mixture.
yeah.
Like some people are going to be too hard, too muscular. Some people are going to be too soft. So I don't know. I'm going into it with an open mind. I think it creates an opportunity for more people that have maybe left the sport that originally like the OG people like that could come back and like, still be able to compete like they were able to before is how
Yeah.
I see it. But I see it your
Yeah.
way too as like a newer
Well, I think that
perspective.
also like those other categories had different criteria, and so far I don't see any different criteria from bikini except less muscle and more body fat.
So, yeah, I mean,
Basically,
it's yeah, it's less
less
muscle. But
less
like, would
higher
you
body.
argue that women's physique and women's bodybuilding are the same, except women's physique has less muscle? They're exactly the same. They have the same posing routine. They have the same suit. And in this one, they don't even have the same suit or the same front pose. But like women's bodybuilding is exactly the same as women's physique. It's just a bigger body with more muscle. Same with like uh, like the classic division. They brought that because open bodybuilding was getting so out of control with the drugs and everything. And so they wanted to go back to that old bodybuilder. So they brought classic in. And they didn't have weight categories, or no, they did at first. And so they wanted to rein it in on the amount of muscle and the amount of drugs. So like that's where classic came in for the same thing like as the men, where it's like exactly the same. And I think they did that same thing with women's physique, which I don't remember that evolution so much, just because like women's bodybuilding had at one point like completely died out. Like they took it away from the Olympia and everything because it was just so far
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah.
Um, and so then they started promoting women's physique, which is basically the same criteria. The only difference is less muscle and a little bit more body fat. So, like, as you go through that spectrum, like, women's bodybuilding is the most muscular, the leanest, and then
Yes.
it tapers down. They're still looking for symmetry. They're still have their posing, like, they still have their suits, and then it just tears down. So, it is sequential. It's just like they're just trying to like bikini's grown so much over the last 10 to 15 years that it's like then they have to have like a new baseline, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like if you
Never.
look at like the figure
Well, and also,
competitors of 2012, if they were to like have an IFBB pro next to them, a bikini competitor, they would look like they had no muscle. And it's just like evolved like over time.
yeah. And that's
So
the way any sport does. Someone breaks the glass ceiling, and then everyone else, there's a new standard, and
yeah,
everyone else goes to that standard. And so
yeah.
it just feels like the NPC is saying, we're dying here. We need more people, so we're gonna give you a new standard.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
mean, that's what they did originally with bikini and men's physique. They were dying, and now like those two categories are the most popular. And there's a reason because they were basically like, okay, this should be somebody just walking off the beach. Like that's what it was.
Yeah.
Literally, it was supposed to be an off the rack suit, and it's just,
But it's evolved
diverge.
into something a little more.
But that's
I
what it was originally there for. It
Yeah,
was for
exactly.
more mainstream
But
people
evolving
to
sports
like,
evolve, and it doesn't
yeah.
necessarily mean going back to the original is progress. But if you're running a business, I get it.
Yeah, which is why I think they added classic bodybuilding too, just because it's like they were realizing there weren't that many open bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And so as soon as they added that division, like you said, it's a business. Like they get
Yep.
more customers. It's kind of
Yeah.
like they're
Exactly.
kind of like opening their door to more customers,
Yeah.
basically. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. I was
but
thinking of this the other day because I got my letter from the NPC reminding me to up
Renee.
renew. Yep. And I
Uh-huh.
was yep, you are a business. And we think about it as a competition, but they're running a business and we, the athletes, are their customers, as well as advertisers and companies and things like that. And so as far as growing, making more money and getting more people involved, I think this is a brilliant move.
So one closing thought, just really
Perspective.
quick. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
What were you gonna say?
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry. Um, we didn't mention this, but they
Yeah,
can't cross over into
I know.
bikini. So if you think about it from a promoter's perspective, which I've been a promoter, I was a promoter for 5 years, you make your money on crossovers.
Yeah.
So you actually are, you might be like splitting that line of bikini, it might not necessarily be, I mean, maybe it'll be bigger, maybe it won't, but like if you don't allow crossovers other than like if they can do novice, true novice, masters, open, they can
We've
only do it in
that.
fitness model.
Yeah.
So when wellness came out, you saw promoters making a lot of money because a lot
Mm,
of people were trying to figure out, am I a bikini
yes.
or am I wellness? So they
Uh-huh.
cross over in multiple categories. And
Mhm.
then there was confusion because then you'd get like top five in wellness and top five in bikini. And it's like, where do I fit? And I
Yeah.
had athletes that did that, and that's what happened. So I think that I kudos to them for making the hard line that these people have to at least decide what they're going to do. And it's not like a money grab in that sense, I think. I think they're really trying to figure out like who wants to do bikini, who wants to do fitness model by limiting the crossovers in other divisions.
Well, I
So
mean, I
that's
guess
just like food for thought, but
they're limiting promoters from making more money then.
that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I think that it's not totally a money grab, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like I think they're
the
just trying to also
NPC is not
define.
promoters. The NPC is the company. The promoter is the local person trying to put on the show and make the money. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but promoters have to pay for a sanction number and you have to
Exactly.
pay a
That no matter what. So it's almost like they're not allowing the promoters to make as much money as they could, but they're still making money. Do you know what I mean? By growing the.
or you can play a devil's advocate that
Mhm.
they might be making more money because those people that wouldn't have done bikini because they don't feel like they have enough muscle, but they're fit and in shape, then they
Might
might
in the
like
show.
you might like open it up to more people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It can go either way, but I
I
know
mean,
there's like
hopefully for
two sides of
promoters
the
to help
coin.
out. I mean, you
Yeah.
definitely want promoters to make good on, I mean, they put on a lot of work to do these shows
Yeah.
for us, like a lot. So like you want them to be successful and hopefully this helps them make more money.
Yeah. I mean, it should, you can look at it both ways, but
Yeah.
I really do think that they're just trying to like keep things like under control with the amount of muscle, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I absolutely think you're right. I mean, that's exactly what they said. Those are
Yeah.
the criteria. It is bikini, but less muscle.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just thought we'd hop on and chat about this. I know it was a little bit like a heated conversation because,
I
like,
love it.
it's like new and it's debatable, and there's so many sides to think about it. Sorry about that. That was super loud. But yeah, if you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you can go to at Glam Girl Bikini or at Prep Life Podcast. And if you would like to apply for coaching, which I am very excited about taking on clients in this new division. So, I've had a couple, like I said, clients reach out. So if you are interested, I've definitely done the OG bikini and I know what that's all like. So, you can apply on our website at glamgirlbikini.com and hit the get started button to apply. Thanks for listening, guys.